Hey guys, it's Malthor here once again, back with our second build of the new league. That's usually when you can start to do some pretty interesting things and start gearing up in much wackier ways, because you should be pretty established from your starter build. Now, I had a lot of skills and a lot of interactions and shit I wanted to get to, but primarily I still want to explore the Elementalist new Golem side of things, and that was basically, in my mind, a free win. It was going to be whatever interaction, whatever build, whatever skill I really wanted, and it would take some kind of scaling with the golems, and it would just make anything work pretty much. That's just the flexibility, the versatility of golems. And in this case, the conclusion was that I should play Spectral Shield Throw of Trathus. So the new pizza delivery system, we just then spent an entire character creating pizzas from totems, and now we are delivering those pizzas via a mean Captain America style throw. And it's pretty good skill. So it is similar to the old shield throw, but it requires less specific aiming and targeting, which is one of the annoying things of shield throw. And basically you just throw out a projectile. It then sits there for about a second or two until it casts all of the secondary projectiles that it has in kind of an AoE style thing. The end result is kind of like Ethereal Knives, I'd say, with a Nova, except you can, throw it into further away sort of situations instead of just originating at yourself. The real interesting interaction with this skill, however, is with Sniper's Mark. Basically, if you have Sniper's Mark on the enemy, you can create an additional shield. It'll split into 2 projectiles, what was originally 1, and it also depends on how far away you are from the enemy as to where those shields go. If you're point blank on top of the enemy, then the shield is going to land directly on top of the enemy. If you're further away, then they're going to split into many different areas. If you keep scaling Mark Effect, however, you will split out more and more shields, thus creating some pretty interesting potential for single target on this skill. I am of course an Elementalist, and it is hard to scale that sort of thing, but I've done my best to at least get some scaling, and at this point I am throwing out 3 shields every time I'm attacking a Sniper's Marked target. Now, currently what you're seeing is some pretty filthy Shrine gameplay, so once you get Accelerate Shrine, Echo Shrine, you can do some nasty things. But I'm also using Impulsor in this build for the first time in quite a while to have explosions, and also we're scaling area as an Elementalist, thanks to Elementalist. No, that's pretty sick hideout I was just trading in. We are scaling Elementalist area thanks to the actual Elementalist. We are scaling area thanks to the Golems, and it has not taken long. I'm already up to my tier 16s and just kept ramping and ramping because it just kept feeling good. The clear in this character is pretty insane thanks to the Impulsor, thanks to all the Heralds as well, and then the single target so far is not too bad. But yes, the completely interesting and busted thing potentially here is golems. I am running a hat that is new to this game that can double your minion count. Now I wanted to get on this thing a little bit sooner than I would have otherwise liked to, because I wanted to make sure I was playing around with it before this sort of thing got too popular, because once it gets popular, I think all bets are off and it's going to the moon. This thing doubles your minion count, and it can roll randomly between all kinds of different minions. This specific hat is just doubling your golem count, and then you can't have any other minions. And in this case, that means we now have 18 golems. If you stack Primordial Bond cluster jewels, you get essentially, at this point, 180% damage per primordial bond that you have access to. I currently have only got 2. I haven't gone out of my way to make it crazy because I can't, especially this early on. It's already pretty expensive. But in theory, if you get a lot of these primordial bonds, you can get a good 1,000 or 2,000% increased damage, and it can be really crazy. So I think this is possibly one of the best damage scaling kind of systems and archetypes in the game at the moment, but it's also going to be one of the hardest ones to pull off because you need megalomaniacs that have primordial bonds, and this early into the league there ain't too many, and people are buying them as they pop up. If you take this type of a hat and put it into a league that is pretty well established, like last one, it is absolutely your like at your freedom to buy as many primordial bonds for pretty cheap because they weren't like really looked at too much, and you could make some pretty crazy characters. I think you're still going to be able to make some really crazy stuff, and especially, as I said, as an elementalist, it is kind of a free win because this is generic damage scaling. All of this ends up being percent increased damage, which means you can do anything. You can have free reign to make a poison, an ignite, a physical, or a chaos, an elemental, specific LE builds. Any of that shit can work. And Elementalist, which has historically, once scaling golems, been a bit of a free win, I think now is more of a free win than ever. The only real difficulty is sometimes your golems might die, I suppose, but since they're elemental immune, since you can have a merc with like extra regen and stuff, they so far have not really been dying, and it's only in the real tough content that they might start dying, so that's the only thing you got to kind of be careful of. This character for me is still kind of in its infancy. It's already like pretty close to done, but at the same time I haven't put super large amounts of work into min-maxing and making it crazy, so I think it can still go quite a bit higher, but at this stage I'm already taking on the end game stuff. And I'm on a 5-link and not really fully optimized. So this is the first time I'm fighting this memory dude outside of the quest version, and he feels pretty thick, especially compared to like Cortex bosses, for example. Those were dying in like a second or two. This guy took me, I think, a minute and a half, something like that, to kill. So it's pretty thick boss, but all in all, like, it's the first time I'm encountering him with any real mechanics, because the quest version on Pizza Totems felt like nothing, instantly died. Now I'm learning the mechanics of this thing, and for the most part, it's pretty chill. Like, none of this stuff did too much damage to me. It was just a thick kind of boss fight. But you can see the interaction with Sniper's Mark here. Every single shield throw I'm throwing out, we are getting lots of shields spawning around him that then pulse a bunch of projectiles, and seems to shotgun kind of well in that way. So really cool first skill, really cool new hat to play around with on the Elementalist. And let me go ahead and show you how I built this thing up to now. So here we are, currently level 90. Did totems fall off? Referencing previous build. People always going to ask when I move on from one build to the next. Totems were great. Could have taken it much further even, and it already killed plenty of stuff. Wanted to move on, and I'm probably going to cycle through builds pretty quick at this rate, I think, because there's a lot I want to get to and a lot I want to try out. Yep, this one is Elementalist, level 90. As you can see, a whole absolute fucking menagerie of golems chasing around after me, and that is because of this hat. So, new item in the game, max number of summon golems is doubled. Can't have non-minion shit, and as you can see, it non-golem stuff. As you can see, it can do all kinds of different stuff, and in theory, it can be some very crazy builds out there. I, in particular, once I saw this, wanted to do Elementalist and, scale your golems. As soon as you get these at, normal lab, you become a pretty powerful build in many different ways. But once you scale with, as I said, Primordial Bond, so I've got a very basic setup here. One cluster jewel with Primordial Bond, which gives us 10% damage per summoned golem. And then I've got one other cluster jewel I made over here with Primordial Bond. Like I said, very basic setup. I'm just getting 180 damage from each of these Primordial Bonds. If you then use Megalomaniacs, which I've only got one of, but it doesn't use a Primordial Bond. If you have Megalomaniacs with Primordial Bond, you can get a fuck ton of these. And in theory, you could even do 3 cluster jewel setups, I think, if you really wanted to go super all out this type of thing. And then you just have damage to the fucking moon. So I went fairly basic with this one, just more of a proof of concept, because it's going to be a high-end build after all is said and done, and it still works pretty damn well. So mine's not anything crazy by any means. Running Primordial Chain for the extra golems. You can use an Anima Stone and get another extra golem if you really wanted to go a bit heavier with this sort of thing, and you can end up having 20 golems without really breaking the bank. But any more than 18 is typically not too worth it at this point, I don't think. So with all these golems, what do you get? You basically get a bit of everything. So if we look at Chaos Golem over here, it gives us Chaos Res, pretty much triple any of these modifiers. So you get 3 times more Chaos Res than that. Flame Golem is damage and area, which is quite a lot. Over here we've got Ice Golem, which basically takes care of our accuracy, decent amount of crit too. We have Stone Golem of Hordes. This one you put in strictly to get like an extra 1 golem, and then once it gets doubled, you get 2 extra golems. So he's just running around as extra golems. Over here we have Stone Golem, which gives us increased defenses and life regen, quite a lot as well. This one over here is one of the kind of newer, fancier ones. Golems grant 15% of melee damage taken from your Stone Golem's life before you, and you can see that that's working over here at a rate of 57%. So these Stone Golems have a chance to probably die quite, often, but melee damage hits are kind of getting absorbed by the Stone Golem there, so it's pretty damn tasty. And then the Lightning Golem, of course, attack speed, a bit of cast speed, a lot of mana regen. So it's actually one of the real first attack builds I've played that don't particularly need any reduced attack mana cost or any leech. It's just focusing off pure regen, and it's working out really well because of all of the golems out there. So then your SST, so that's the skill there of Trathus. Doesn't have a huge base damage compared to the other one, but it does have potential to have a lot of overlapping hits. And then, of course, still based around armor, evasion. And that makes Emperor's Vigilance really hard to say no to. Ever since you put it on at level 46, your damage is going to be crazy. It's got huge armor, but more importantly, it gets Seething Fury. So that's offhand crit, offhand critical strike, multi. And it's really hard to beat this one. Like, yes, you can, in theory, come close to the same stats and then have a shield that also has some other stats on it, but it'll be hard to do. So for all intents and purposes, you pretty much put on Emperor's Vigilance and build around it. So that's currently what our crit and crit multi is looking like without having to put too much into it. And we're close to capped once buffs and stuff are up. My crit multi is still not huge. I'm still working on that as well. And then you just wear a weapon for a stat stick. The new Maven, Uber Maven wand that can get triple 50% as extras is probably the best in slot, but that's also going to be a pretty high ticket item. So we're keeping it fairly humble once again. I haven't rolled this thing quite well enough, but so far that's what we've got. Fizz is extra, maybe some minion damage because we are utilizing Spiritual Aid over here. So that's currently what I've got going there. I'm running in impulses because, like I said, I wanted those extra explosions, and we are scaling them with area. We are scaling them with generic damage, so they're pretty powerful explosions, and we are utilizing shocks inflict spread to other enemies, so prolif. We got some convert over here. I've got conversion on the main skill. And then, yeah, this is a basic ring I found off one of the mercs. This is a belt I found off one of the mercs. We're just taking care of life and res through those. I am using Prospero's new ring just to gain extra armor. No, this thing does not give us extra damage based off of our shield thing. It's just whatever shield armor and energy shield is there to begin with is what your sort of SST is based off. This is just giving us extra armor basically for free because we don't have any armor on our chest, so we're not enabling that, and it makes us a good bit thicker. So we've got decent armor and stuff for some thickness. We've got glancing blows from this thing, and I've got a lot of regen, bit of leech. So overall, yeah, we can take some hits. And then we've got the fucking Stone Golem too. And then I've got just boots that solve some dexterity and avoid chill, because that's pretty much what we've got to do there. So all in all, yeah, that's kind of the build. We've got a lot of heralds as well, and we're scaling auras thanks to that, thanks to the elementalist nodes for all of this sort of shit, quad heralds, and then this exposure node over here. To make use of that, we are using a medium cluster that gives heraldry, so that's going to give exposure all at once. It'll be a bit annoying like rolling this thing. You do have to spend a good amount of like alts to get heraldry combined with something. Yeah, that's basically where it's at. I then grabbed a Megalo just for trying to scale Mark Effect, because you need at least 50% Mark Effect to get that extra shield throw. You need 100% to get 2 extra. So since I'm an Elementalist and I'm all the way up here, it's really hard to get Mark Effect. If you make a Deadeye, for example, you can have up to probably 200% Mark Effect by like scaling it all out and then just throwing shitloads of extra shields out there. Be careful though, because I'm pretty sure once you start doing that and spawning lots of shields, your game is going to lag, and your audio on the game in particular is going to sound super scuffed. So it is possible, and Deadeye, Champion, pretty much anything should be fairly nice for shield throw. But yeah, careful of how you scale it. It might end up being a bit game breaking. But it's a pretty cool skill. I think it's fairly versatile. I think it can be done a lot of things with it. Poison, impale, fizz, whatever. And it's fairly effective and fun to, give a shot to. As far as the rest of the build is concerned, I've also got a timeless jewel over here just for some double damage, 5%, 5%, and another 5% there. You can instead use a brutal restraint and just get a bunch of dexterity and crit if you want. You can just get a couple of 5 doubles and some other cool stuff too. So yeah, don't try and replicate my jewel exactly. It's not going to be easy to do. Otherwise, yep, I'm still trying to figure out what my clusters do over here. Just a bit of crit, and then I think I'm going somewhere over there to do something. Got another Hound's Mark over here. We are using a little bit of approach speed on this cluster, and Pierce. We don't really need this Pierce, but it can help out to do a bunch more Pierce. Currently, like Impulse is doing pretty much everything. You can instead use a Lionized Chest for Pierce, or yeah, actually just scale a lot of approach speed and get a lot of approach speed, because mine's pretty close to default, but if you get more, I can go basically off screen and get pretty crazy. But yeah, that's currently my setup. It's not too spicy. It's, fairly basic. It's just got the difficult kind of hat to acquire. The rest of it's not too bad. Shouldn't be too difficult to get. Of course, you can, the implicit on this one's going to be a bit weird. If you can get res, cool. I'm currently very overcapped on res, I think, so it's not even doing anything. But, I'm probably going to try and lighten the load of some of my res to get some more damage elsewhere. That's currently the setup. A lot of golems, a lot of damage, a lot of fun to be had, and yeah, very, very flexible base for the future of Elementalist building. As I said, probably going to be a free win of an Ascendancy if you go hard with this sort of thing. So, choose whatever interaction, whatever skill, whatever new cool shit is out there, and get to Elementalisting. Yep, because it's super strong at the moment. So with that, thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.